you ever wondered what happens when the person who gives you everything suddenly gives you nothing? This is the story of Mark and Sarah, a story that proves the old saying, "You do not know what you've got till it's gone." Mark and Sarah had what looked like the perfect marriage. From the outside, they were the couple everyone envied. Mark adored Sarah. He was the kind of husband who remembered every little detail: her favorite coffee, the way she liked her toast, the silly songs that made her laugh. He'd leave her little notes, plan surprise date nights, and always put her first. His world revolved around making her happy. He wasn't just a husband, he was her biggest fan, her staunchest supporter, her rock. But for Sarah, this constant affection started to feel predictable, safe, boring. The adoration that once felt like a warm blanket now felt suffocating. She started to mistake his unwavering devotion for a lack of excitement. She craved the thrill of the unknown, the spark of a new connection, the validation that she was still desirable to someone new. She started to see Mark's kindness not as a strength, but as a weakness. That's when Alex came into the picture. He was a new colleague at her firm, charming, witty, and a little bit dangerous. He gave her the kind of attention that made her pulse race, the kind she hadn't felt in years. He'd compliment her on her sharp intellect in meetings, then send her a flirty text message right after. It was exciting, it was new, and Sarah, caught up in the whirlwind, started to drift. It began with innocent lunches, which then turned into late-night drinks. "We're just friends," she told herself. "It's just harmless fun." She convinced herself that this little secret was hers to keep, a separate part of her life that had nothing to do with her marriage. She enjoyed the thrill of the chase, the feeling of being wanted in a new and exhilarating way. The guilt was there, a small whisper in the back of her mind, but she pushed it down, silenced by the loud, intoxicating rush of a new infatuation. She felt alive again, and she told herself she deserved that. The day it all came crashing down was ordinary, almost mundane. Mark had planned a special dinner for their anniversary. He'd cooked her favorite meal, filled the house with candles, and had a small, beautifully wrapped gift waiting for her. But Sarah had completely forgotten. She was out with Alex, lost in conversation and laughter, her phone silenced in her purse. She arrived home hours late to a cold dinner and a quiet house. Mark was sitting on the sofa, the unlit candles casting long shadows on the walls. The look on his face wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was something far worse: emptiness. He didn't yell. He didn't demand an explanation. He just looked at her, and in his eyes, she saw the light that had always been there for her finally flicker out. "I know, Sarah," he said, his voice quiet and steady. "I've known for a while." He had seen the texts, noticed the late nights, and felt the distance growing between them like an impassable chasm. He had been waiting, hoping she would come back to him, hoping it was just a phase. But that night, seeing her walk in without a care in the world on their anniversary, something inside him broke. That night was the beginning of the end, but not in the way Sarah expected. There were no dramatic fights, no slammed doors. Instead, there was silence. A profound, deafening silence. Mark stopped. He just stopped. He stopped making her coffee in the morning. He stopped leaving her notes. He stopped asking about her day. He stopped looking at her with that familiar adoration. He was still there, a physical presence in their home, but the Mark who loved her, the Mark who had built his world around her, was gone. He started focusing on himself. He started going to the gym every morning. He reconnected with old friends he'd lost touch with. He picked up his guitar again, filling the house with melodies that weren't for her. He was polite, he was civil, but he was distant. It was like living with a polite, considerate stranger. He was no longer her husband. He was just her roommate. At first, Sarah felt a strange sense of relief. The pressure was off. The guilt she'd been carrying around seemed to lift. But then, a new feeling began to creep in, a hollow ache in her chest. She missed the coffee. She found herself searching for little notes that were no longer there. The silence in the house became unbearable. His indifference was 1,000 times more painful than any angry words could ever be. She would see him laughing on the phone with a friend and feel a pang of jealousy. She saw him getting ready to go out, looking healthier and happier than he had in years. and she felt a desperate longing to be the reason for his smile again. The thrill she'd felt with Alex faded, replaced by the stark, cold reality of what she had lost. Alex's charm now seemed superficial, his compliments hollow. He was a distraction, a fleeting excitement. Mark was her home. One evening she tried to bridge the gap. "Mark, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. He looked up from the book he was reading, his expression neutral. "About what, Sarah?" "About us," she pleaded. "I miss you. I miss this." Mark closed his book and gave her a long, steady look. There was no anger in his eyes, just a deep, settled sadness. "The us you miss doesn't exist anymore," he said calmly. "You broke it. And you know, the funny thing is, I spent so much time trying to be the person you wanted. I forgot who I was. I spent so long caring about your happiness that I completely neglected my own. I can't go back to that." He wasn't saying it to be cruel. He was just stating a fact. He had stopped caring not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. He had poured everything he had into her, and when she threw it away, he had to learn to pour that energy back into himself. That was the moment Sarah truly understood. The moment he stopped caring was the moment she started regretting everything. She had taken his unconditional love for granted, seeing it as a permanent fixture in her life. She never imagined a world where it wouldn't be there. Now she was living in that world, and it was a lonely, empty place. She realized that the stable, predictable love she had found so boring was actually the most precious, exciting thing she had ever had. It was the thrill of knowing someone would always be in your corner, the adventure of building a life together, the excitement of true partnership. She had chased a spark, and in the process, she had let her own eternal flame go out. And now, all she could do was watch as the man who used to be her world built a new one without her in it. Her regret was a constant companion, a heavy reminder that sometimes the most devastating goodbyes are the ones that are never said, just silently lived. This story is a powerful lesson about appreciating what we have before it's gone. True love isn't always about the dramatic, heart-pounding moments. It's often found in the quiet, consistent acts of devotion. It's a reminder to nurture the love you have, because once it's gone, you might find that you've lost the most valuable part of yourself. Thank you.